Alright, I have figured something out. I have been bitching so much about wrestling that I realize that I don't want to be that guy. I know people find it funny. He does. But I don't want to be just the guy that bitches about wrestling, because everybody does that. You could go on YouTube right now and just type in people bitching about wrestling, and 20,000 videos pop up. I don't want to be like that. So my last video, my ungodly rant about Monday Night Raw. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm not going to do that this week. Instead, I am going to choose something I actually like. I know, shocking, isn't it? I actually like something about wrestling. And I do. This is something I can enjoy on certain levels. Anything with the name McMahon owned on it, I'm probably not going to like. Just because Vince McMahon has... he's pretty much pulled a Family Guy on professional wrestling, where, you know how on Family Guy, they tell a joke, they beat the joke down, they kill the joke, they take the joke, they feed it to a cow shits the joke out, they take the lump of shit, and they pound the shit even more. That's what Family Guy does to a joke. Vince McMahon has done the same thing with wrestling. He has overexposed it, over-dramatized it, just over everything, and Dog is jacking off his bottle.
No, I'm not.
Notice how when you accuse somebody of something, they immediately say, no, I'm not, you know they're guilty. Anyway, Dog jacking his bottle off aside.
I'm not!
I am going to talk about something that, again, I like, and that is the independent wrestling scene. I love indie wrestling. Why? A couple reasons. Number one, they focus on wrestling. As easy as you can get. They actually wrestle. And silly me, I watch wrestling for... What do I watch wrestling for? It's that word. What's that word? Starts with an R. Oh, that's right. Wrestling! You watch wrestling for wrestling. You name me one person that watches Monday Night Football and okay, we're going to have 2 minutes of football like every hour. Every hour we're going to have 2 minutes of football, and the other 58 minutes of that hour, we're going to have talking, you know? We're going to have the commentators talking about shit. You'd be pissed. Like, that's all you get is 2 minutes of football. I think you'd be right pissed. So at least with indie shows, you actually get to see wrestling. You get to see decent wrestling. These are, if you don't know what indie wrestling is, it's independent, which means it has nothing to do with Vince McMahon, it has nothing to do with TNA, it has nothing to do with any of the other big leagues. It's just some dude who says, I'm going to start a wrestling organization. And there's so many other things about it, but really what it comes down to is, at least everyone that I've been to, you will pay upwards to maybe $10, $12, $15 at the most for a seat, a ticket. And the ring that you go and see is your standard issue wrestling ring. It's about the same height. They may construct it a little more cheaply, but what do you expect? They're indies. But where I'm sitting now, like let's say I buy a ringside seat, and Squishy Frog here, he's the ring. the ring, if I can turn this, would be... Actually, no, it'd be right about where that bed is. So I don't even need... Squishy Frog, we don't need you. So yeah. Where you're sitting, where you are now, as you're watching this, the bed, that's where the ring would be. You're that close. And you paid, what, $12 for that seat? 15 at the most? So automatically you're seeing a hell of a show, because you're 2 feet away. And there's no guardrails. So when they go flying out of that ring, and they do, you are in no man's land. You run the risk of getting knocked the hell out. I guess I should talk about the groups that I've seen. I live in Newville, Pennsylvania. If you don't know what that is, you're not missing much. 2 of our 3 highlights are gone. We have a red light. We used to have Pino's, and
I got pulled over at that fucking red light.
He got pulled over. There was another. What was the other big draw to Newville?
We had like 3 leagues there over the years, didn't we?
Something like that, yeah.
What the hell was the last? Oh, Superstar Wrestling.
Yeah, but I mean,
there's clips of our
on our
YouTube channel.
I mean, the 3 big highlights of Newville. There was the light, there was Pino's, and I don't know, the fair.
Pino's ain't there no more.
No, I know. That's what I mean.
Sorry.
I don't know. There was at least 3, but Pino's is gone. So, if you get lost in Newville, you're an idiot, because you just look for the red light. So, these indie leagues would come around. I used to live in Newville. I lived 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, I lived like a minute away from where they would hold the events at the...
Remember the night I drove from my parents' house to your house in like 4 minutes to catch the match?
Yeah, he did that. I called him up and I said, dude, are you coming to wrestling tonight? Oh shit, it's tonight? Hold on, I'll be right there. 4 minutes later, he's there. But yeah, I lived a minute away from the community center where they hold this. And I just remember seeing these posters all around for wrestling. I figured, what the hell? I got nothing to do tonight. I'll go see it. It was, I don't think they're running anymore, but it was called the NWL, the National Wrestling League, / the House of Pain. And the promoter of this group was a man named John Rambo. And no, it's not the Rambo that you immediately think of with Sylvester Stallone. In fact, he actually kind of looked like Rambo. He had the long hair, he wore the fatigues, and he was a really cool guy. And it was what you would expect. It's these young... indie wrestling is a combination of young, up-and-coming wrestlers, kind of middle-of-the-road guys who just do it for the weekends, and then you have your old, used-to-be huge names, and this is the only place that they can make a buck anymore. And those are the guys that are really sad to watch, because you're thinking, my God, like, this guy used to be wrestling in 20,000 seat arenas, and now he's at Newville. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. But I guess those are the guys that can't let it go, that are just so addicted to wrestling that they have no choice but to keep doing this shit. The younger guys are pretty cool. What are some of the names? John Rambo is one. Samu, Head Shrinker Samu. He was in House of Pain. Our personal favorite, Morgus the Maniac. If you never got a chance to see Morgus the Maniac, you missed out on one of the coolest characters ever. He came out with these 2 orderlies. Like they were dressed up in blue scrubs, and he came out in like a straitjacket. And they literally would lead him out, and he would just be screaming his head off. The guy had to be at least 60. So he would just be like, ah! I would be just screaming too. I'd be like, head for the hills, the madman's loose. You know, try and help out the show a little bit. And he would get in, he'd like stick his head in between the ropes and the ring and like bang his head up on the ring. And it was funny. Who else did they have? They had there was a guy called Spiral. He was cool. That was the group that had who was it? Was it OBG? Somebody. I don't know. He was an okay guy. Hijinks. That's where I first saw him. Hijinks is a big indie guy. That's where I first saw him at. They had the Highwaymen. God, I can't believe I remember some of these names. One of the Highwaymen was, I think, called Leslie Leatherman or something like that. It was fun. It was good times. And for 2 hours, for $10, $12, you got to see a wrestling show. A very good wrestling show. House of Pain also, and this was his first show, did what was called the Lord of the Rings. Not the movie. But they would literally set up 2 wrestling rings, side by side. And each ring had a match in it. 2 other guys. And this was done with all the other indie groups around, I think, the East Coast. Like, there was over 40 wrestlers in this damn event. And so, you'd have 2 matches in the ring, they'd be fighting each other. Whoever won the match in one of the rings jumped over to the other ring, and it became a 3-way dance. And once that match was over, whoever won that match would go on to what was called Lord of the Rings. They had, I don't know, probably 40 guys, so you would figure 20 matches. And once all those matches got done, they called the 10 winners out. And they put 5 guys in one ring, 5 guys in another. Had a battle royal. 2 battle royals. And so the people that won the battle royals, they'd have a winner in each ring. They would get into another ring, and the first time we saw it, they had a TLC match. So you're thinking, this is like 3-4 matches a night, in one night. So whoever wins this thing definitely deserved it. And it was a really good match, really good night. And House of Pain kind of, they did what every indie league I think ends up doing, and I don't think it helps them. They started really going to the extreme on some things. House of Pain was also the group that the 2 guys were fighting, and one dude jumped off the balcony of the community center. You know, you go into the main entrance of the community center, there's a balcony above it where they would have the camera set up sometimes, and one of the guys, actually they both fought their way up to this balcony. One dude threw the other one, he was hanging on the balcony, he's like, oh my god, holy shit, this is pretty far up. He gets knocked down. It's a solid wood floor, so when he hits it, he sounds like a piece of liver hitting the floor like that. And you'd think that would be it. No. We can get stupider. The other dude, he gets over the railing, and I think he drops an elbow. Now, of course, me as a fan, I'm thinking this is the coolest shit ever. I literally jump in the air like, oh my god, that was fucking awesome! Thinking back on it now, these guys probably didn't make enough money to pay for their gas to get here. And they're killing themselves for what? You know, it's not like Vince McMahon has scouts all over the country looking for new talent. They don't do that anymore. These are guys that are basically weekend warriors, if there's a better word for it. They don't get paid much. But those are the true guys that I like, because they're not doing it for the money. They're not doing it for the recognition. They're doing it because they love it. They love the business. They have a passion about it that I wish a lot of other people would have. You know, once you get to the hierarchy, Mount Olympus, the WWE. You're pretty much trained to hate indie wrestlers, and most of the guys that are in the WWE now, that's where they made their life. That's where they plied their craft. And it kind of disgusts me at times to think that guys like Triple H will do interviews and like indie wrestlers are so stupid, they're so fucking dumb. Who would do that kind of shit to them? You know what? You did. You were an indie wrestler at one time, Paul. And guess what? You had to do the same things. Don't get me started on Triple H. I have a whole thing about him sometimes. Anyway, moving on. The other group that I saw, after House of Pain pretty much left Newville, was the IWC, the International Wrestling Cartel. And these were probably the best guys that I've seen in Newville by far, because they brought the big name guys in. The first time I saw them, pardon me, was they had Mick Foley. That's where I got my Cactus Jack shirt signed. Jim Cornette was there. Who else was? Shit. I think it was just Jim Cornette and Mick Foley the first time. And that was really cool to see those guys. Actually, I think Al Snow was there too. I think he was. Yeah, I think Al Snow was there too. So you got to see Mick Foley, Al Snow, and Jim Cornette, three big names in wrestling, along with the other indies. In fact, this was the show where I saw a very young CM Punk. Before CM Punk was big, I saw him in Newville. I saw Alex Shelley in Newville. Chris Hero was there. He's a huge name in the indie leagues. There was a guy in TNA, I think, right now. I don't think this is his actual name in TNA, but Shima Zion. He was in the IWC. So this was really an indie league. Chris Sabin was there. So really, you go back and look, there were so many guys that I'd seen on TV that I'd seen in IWC. Delirious, he's a huge name in Ring of Honor. And I saw him in Newville. Of all places, I saw him in Newville. The next show that IWC had, they had AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, and Superfly Jimmy Snuka. How could you beat that? You pay $20, you get to see three of the biggest names in wrestling right now. Styles and Daniels were the main event, and they tore the fucking house down for barely any money. They did it for charity. I think every show in Newville did it for, I think, the Children's Miracle Network, which was cool, but still, $20 to see all that, you can't beat it. And then they moved to the community center. I don't know why. They were doing it at the high school, but they moved to the community center. I don't know if the high school had a problem with it or not, but still, same group, same rowdy fans. They filled that place up. There was always a group. Dog, you can even attest to this.
What?
There was always that group of fans at the IWC shows that would scream "Test of Strength."
Oh yeah, I remember.
Every match, at the beginning of every match, they'd be like, "Test of strength! Test of strength!" And nobody would do it. Until the very end. The show that I saw at Newville, the community center, the main event was AJ Styles against Samoa Joe. And that was when I took my nephew to see it, and he got to meet Samoa Joe, get his picture, autograph, all that. It was really cool. And I believe the last show that we saw at the IWC, Jake Roberts was there. Jake the Snake Roberts. And you want to talk old, haggard, beaten down. Just, you felt bad to sit there and watch this man wrestle. He still had it, but it was really sad to see how far he had fallen. Like I said, you almost feel ashamed to be there to watch it. But it's still cool. I saw Nikolai Volkov. That was back at House of Pain. That was kind of cool to see his old ass wrestle. His saggy ass in the trunks. Really makes you feel proud to be a wrestling fan. And as Dog said, the other group that we saw recently was Superstar Wrestling.
Yeah, like I said earlier, we have clips on our YouTube channel of them. So
yes.
Check that out.
Yeah.
It's in a playlist. I think there's probably about 6 or 7 vids in that list.
Right.
Out of like 2 different matches they did. Or
Superstar Wrestling was kind of in the middle. They don't draw a good crowd in Newville, and then again, I don't think anybody really drew a good crowd in Newville, except for IWC. I think the first couple times we went, they maybe drew, at the most, I would say 20, 25. And that's kind of scarce. And the biggest problem that I had was...
Well, every league that went through Newville had, like, the thin crowds there toward the end, right?
Right, but the one thing that Superstar Wrestling just really irks me on...
Yeah, I gotta show my face. How's it going, everybody?
The one thing that Superstar Wrestling irks me with is the crowd. The crowd is always dead. And you try desperately to get like some kind of fan support because that's what the guys are looking for. But everybody just sits there all stone-faced.
Remember Dunk?
Dunk,
yeah. He was like a super fan back in the earlier leagues that came there, and then he ended up as Cowboy Dunk.
Yeah, he wrestled.
Superstars.
He wrestled in Superstar. Right? It was weird seeing him. He must have just started because he was pretty green. And another thing about Superstar Wrestling is like their ring. Their ring was really low. Like your standard ring is maybe like waist length. This was kind of like knee length, which was kind of off. But they did have Hijinks was there. I got to see Hijinks, got to meet him. In fact, I complimented him on his tattoos. They were all like 80s cartoon based. And he actually had like an old pro wrestling tattoo, like of the Nintendo game Pro Wrestling of, I think it was Starman. I got props for that. So, bottom line, would I recommend independent wrestling over the stuff on TV? If you're on a budget, hell yeah. Even if you're not on a budget, I'd still recommend it because you pay, like I said, very little, but you get 2 hours of great wrestling, of young guys just breaking their backs, trying desperately to make a name for themselves in this god-awful business. And, you know, I hope to see them someday, but I probably won't. Thank you, Vince McMahon, for that. So, really, that's my take on indie wrestling. Great stuff. I love it. I will always keep supporting the indie leagues because that's the shit that I love the most. I actually have 2 DVDs from IWC. They sold it. They call it a Newville Knockout. I have the one with AJ and Christopher Daniels and the other one with Samoa Joe and AJ. Really good production work, too. I can actually see myself in the crowd. I'm like, oh my god, there I am! I mark out like a schoolgirl. So, but you know what? You can't really talk about indie wrestling without talking about the biggest indie group out there. But I'll save that for next time. And I think you know which one I'm talking about. So, thanks to everybody out there watching. Thank you to Squishy Frog. And thanks to absolutely nobody else, because nobody else contributed to this video. So,
peace and chicken grease.
Yeah, absolutely nobody contributed to the rest of this video. It was just me and Squishy Frog.
TMC has sticky shits.
Nobody else talked at all during this, so just ignore whatever background noise you heard, because I don't know what that is.
Shut up.
So, I'll see you guys later.